disclosure of pecuniary interest? None noted. We have in your package there was a minutes from October the 20th. I would take a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
I'll do that.
Okay, member Milton moves. Councillor McBurney seconds. Any questions on those minutes? I know Jim, you were away. Do you have any minutes, any questions to those minutes?
No, I don't look at
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. We have no delegations, business arising for the minutes. I just wanted to mention, as we indicated in the minutes, that all the meetings will be in the William Town Hall Theatre, effectively for the foreseeable future. Just to let everybody know, as if you've been under a rock, COVID-19 is still prevalent in the area. Council has determined that all committee meetings and council meetings are going to be done remotely, but under the Police Services Act, it doesn't allow virtual meetings. So at this point, we are currently going and doing the meetings here at the Town Hall Theatre. It allows public, because of the audience, there's lots of room for spacing and social distancing. So that's really the reasoning why, you've been noting why tonight is here, but all other council members and meetings and that stuff are virtual. That motion was passed by council on last Monday, I believe. Okay, so the one thing I think we probably should do, in the sense that we've got a couple of new members of the OPP here, probably wouldn't hurt for all the members to go around and kind of introduce yourselves, where you're from, what your affiliation to the board is. Obviously, also because this is streamed live, obviously North Huron ratepayers who are listening in can obviously hear who the representative now will be for the North Huron Police Services Board. So what I'll do is I'll start with Bill there.
Bill McGrath, I'm from the town of William, appointed by the province.
Rick McBurney, I'm a North Huron councillor for the Ward of Wyatt.
Hi, I'm Amanda Piskorski, I'm the secretary for this meeting.
My name is Trevor Sipe, I'm the deputy reeve of North Huron and the chair of the Police Services Board.
Jim Zaretta, I'm a member of the community and the community member for the Police Services Board.
Hi, my name's Joan Milton. I've lived in William since 1972, and I'm just pleased to be here.
And Adam Hellman, acting inspector. I'm from Kenora, and I'm here for a few months, and I'm going to do the best I can for Huron while I'm here.
I'm Andrew McIsaac. I have 24 years here. I'm from Nova Scotia originally. I did a math line here. Been here 24 years though. I'm acting staff sergeant, and pleased to be here with Inspector Hellman. The last time I saw him was we were 400 miles north of Thunder Bay in a fly-in First Nations community. So he's a nice face to see again.
So.
Well, thank you and welcome to you guys as the new faces of the OPP to this board. So glad to have you and glad to be here. At this point, normally we go, there has been a detachment commander report. Obviously, Inspector Hellman, you did not produce this report. And I know I wasn't sure whether Staff Sergeant Cinco was going to be here either. He did mention he thought he would need to introduce you.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know whether you have the ability to shed any light on this report. I'll kind of leave it in your guys' hands and tell me how you want to deal with this report.
Sure. So we've done several of them already, or I have. Inspector Hellman was in Aurelia. Basically, I just went through the calls that we've been dealing with, like the more pronounced calls. As far as the billing hours, I'll be very honest with you. That might be something you have to speak to Staff Sergeant certainly, prepared and ready to go through, the calls that, are of concern. If you'd like me to start now?
Absolutely.
Sure, thank you. So, we have a very small change in calls for service for this, quarter as opposed to the same quarter last year, where last year we had 189 calls, this year we're at 174. We've had no public complaints, internal or external, for that quarter. Our cruiser hours are 177.25 hours. Foot patrol hours are 13. School patrol hours, 16 and a half. Specialized hours is 0. Focus patrol hours is 8, which is we identify an issue, whether it be a stop sign, speeding, transport trucks, whatever it might be, and we try to dedicate some time to that. Number of mobilization hours is 1. Number of ride hours is 11, and we don't have any auxiliary hours because due to COVID, we've obviously said that we're going to try to limit the amount of people. 3 media releases with regards to Wingham in that quarter, none of which were of much substance. 5 collisions, all of them property damage only. Our Crime Stoppers tips, we had 28 tips, 8 of them regarding drugs, 20 regarding intelligence. There were 4 incidents at FE Medill, 1 being a suspicious vehicle. We had another where a 15-year-old was potentially selling alcohol within the school. There was an odor of gas in the school where we assisted fire, and a family dispute between siblings. We do have our school resource officer, Jamie Stanley, is engaged with the school, and he is actually very good. He makes ongoing and constant contact with all the schools within the county, but Jamie's a real asset to us. We have our mobilization officer, who is someone who will deal with things like nuisance persons, nuisance calls, and we try to bring that to a table to see how we best address it. That's Constable Van Mierlo. Again, she's also quite busy, but she brings with her, and as I'm sure everyone is aware in this room, is that the mental health calls are on the increase. And we now have the MCERT worker, who is a crisis, a person who's very well schooled in crisis, and he rides around with officers. And his name is McGregor. We just apparently finalized a second MCERT worker to drive around, a female. Her name escapes me because I met her for the first time today. I apologize. But those are invaluable, and they're saving us a ton of time, because they're able to make assessments medically at a house, at a scene, where we would normally have to bring that individual into the hospital. But they are qualified and are able to make that assessment at the scene, which is huge for us. So we have, as far as noteworthy occurrences, we had a 54-year-old within Wingham charged with mischief for breaking a window. We have another 46-year-old stole a camper trailer from a residence. We have a 44-year-old up on domestic charges. 36-year-old charged with domestic and sexual assault, given a court date. We have a 42-year-old charged with breaching his court conditions. He was sent back to the court to answer to those breaches. A 35-year-old and a 39-year-old female were both charged with shoplifting at the Rexall in town. A 35-year-old was again charged with shoplifting from Dean's Valley Mart. 35-year-old again was charged with uttering threats against another female. We have, in our ride check, we got a cannabis readily available. And we had a young man in town arrested on an outstanding warrant, found to be in possession of methamphetamine. Our trends, there were 11 assaults in the area for this quarter, and it is on par with 11 from this time last year. 2 reported sex assaults, down from 3 in this period from last year. 53 theft occurrences from 32. 2 break-and-enters from 9. As with everywhere, the possession of illicit and illegal drugs is becoming an issue, with fentanyl and methamphetamine seeming to be our main issues. We do have an issue, and it's not just in Wingham, it's county-wide, province-wide, probably national. We need to remove our keys from our cars when we park. It's that simple, and there's no other way to say it.
Vanagram out here, the same.
Same thing, eh? I suspect we're gonna see more and more of that. The other kind of breaking news we have is that thanks to Murray Foxton, now I'm not gonna be able to pronounce this gentleman's last name, K-U-I-V-E-N-H-O-E-V-E-N. Doug has, mentioned that he has a spot available for an ESO at no cost to us, or, he's not charging us anything, and it's behind that Petropolis. So I have to go take a look at that to see if it fits what we need. I'm not picky, I'll tell you that much. So, I mean, if it's warm and has a roof, I think we're good to go. But I am not the final say in that, but I will make my way up here on Thursday and I'm gonna take a look at it because I think that is key. It's very important that our members are able to do their paperwork here as opposed to having to drive to Brussels or back to that. So I really wanna keep our people up here who are dedicated here, for a multitude of reasons. But mostly, this is their zone, this is where I want them, and the transition from multiple detachments down to one is starting to get dialed in a little better. We've got a place in Exeter now that we can go for our members to use the washroom or do some report writing. We have our Goderich. Everyone is familiar with the one on the square. It's actually moving to a different place, but just around the corner. And now hopefully we secure a Wingham spot. So again, the patience is certainly, we're grateful for it. And it's been frustrating as a supervisor, when the member can't even use the washroom in his patrol zone. So, we're moving forward. Things are looking good, but I can't say for sure if it's acceptable yet. I
Right
haven't.
across the street.
I'll absolutely take a look.
Yeah.
I'm not picky, I can tell you that.
You'll like it. You will like it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's
That-
good news.
Well, thank you, and that is good news. I was more excited, I think, than anyone to hear that, because on more than one occasion was wondering why we don't, have proper coverage up here all the time, when it's just guys running back to use the washroom or grab something to eat or something, right? So, everything's working out.
Good.
Aside from that, I have no other news. If there's questions, I'm happy to take them. If I can answer.
Does any board member have a question for, as it relates to the detachment commander's report?
Thank you.
One, what did I see that? So the one thing I will, just for your feedback as it relates to the hours and how this discussion with hours all relates to. So the Wingham Ward, is under a transitional contract.
Yep.
So 3 years based on 7 full-time equivalent individuals, which therefore is based on a number of hours to be in the area. That's the intent of the transitional
Yep.
contract. So what at the time was provided for the board was this discussion about hours. Only for the sake of the understanding of, we know their hours, and I've communicated this to the board, as also I've communicated it to the municipality, is these are all reconciled. Meaning the reconciliation is done, the municipality just got a reconciliation for 2000 and, I believe it was 19, that just got submitted to the municipality. So, if the contract is based on 7 full-time equivalent and hours, when the OPP does their, tracking of hours using their statistics and their DAR, I believe, as how, Staff Sergeant Cinquay placed it, is those are all reconciled back at the OPP headquarters and then dealt with at that point. One of the concerns from the board at the time of the transitional contract was understanding the level of hours that we have in the municipality in Wingham, per se, because we are under this transitional contract and it is based on, they wanted to make sure that we were getting a somewhat equivalent service to what we were getting with, we had the full-time Wingham police here in this ward. So that's the kind of the Coles Notes 500,000 feet version of why that, the last page of those contracted hours is put in here. Only for the sake of letting people know, communicated as occurrence rate versus how many hours. We obviously know the occurrence rate does not always specify the number of hours are going to be the same, because one call could be 6 hours, and one call could be 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
So we get that. It's just a kind of a running total to understand where we are in the contract versus how the contract's laid out. And I know we're gonna have that contract's gonna come due not this February, but I think it's next February.
Okay.
So, and the way I envision, or the way it has been envisioned to me is then that would go flow into the normal billing model, because you would then have enough data, the OPP has enough data to sufficiently describe what the OPP billing model will give them.
Okay.
That's how we envisioned what we were in at the time of the transition. Obviously, with the changes in the Police Services Act and the changes in how police services boards are even going to be looked at in the next, as it relates to legislation, because this board may not even be this board in a few months, depending on where that legislation goes from the Solicitor General. So that's kind of where, just giving you the head feel back, face back to where this contract has been at and where these dollar numbers have come from.
Right. And I think that it's, again, full disclosure, this is day 2 for me. That end of what I need to do is what I actually have a lady coming up tomorrow to teach me more about contracts and hours and stuff. So I actually had a conversation with Dave Cinco, and he said if we start getting into conversations of that, please just tell them to call me directly and I'll tell them, because I'll be quite honest, I can't answer that question.
Yeah, and I completely honest, I don't think a lot of us was a real question about answering a question.
Right.
It's really more for, I know this is
Yeah.
day 2, and in full disclosure, I want you to be we want to be as open and honest, at least I do.
Sure.
As to how the board has seen and what the board has seen in the history. Because, when Inspector Scott started, we had this massive turnover about how information was coming. When we went from the OPP went from the Wing of Police to the OPP, there was another change in information and how it was flowed. So we know there's going to be changes. We understand that, how information is, but we want to, at least I do as the chair, want to make sure that if you have questions about what has been presented in the past, feel free to contact me or give me a call or send me a message. Dave Cinco's got my
You may regret that offer, but I will bring you up.
Well, at the end of the day, I think we're here to work together.
Absolutely.
We're definitely not here to work against each other, so.
For sure.
Okay?
And just, my door or phone is always any issues, you call me, day or night, it doesn't matter. He does that, so I'm usually up. But no, honestly, if there's any concerns, please just get a hold of me. My door is open, my phone is ready, and I will address the issue right away.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we want to make sure, at least I still get phone calls from residents about concerns that they have as it relates to suspicious people or coverage or police presence. I have been very confident in the sense that when I say to them, if you've got a concern, you are to call, and it's not an emergency, you are to call the OPP. Don't call me, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to send off your conversation to the OPP, and then they're going to call you directly. So if you, and I keep saying this to public, if it's an emergency, 911. If it's not an emergency, call your local detachment and fill out a requisition or call for service, and they will get back to you, depending on what the emergency level is.
Yep.
It may not be today, but you'll get a call.
Yep.
So I keep resonating that to the public in every meeting I have, because I want to make sure that, as board members, we're easy to get a hold of. But we can't make decisions that the OPP are doing. So it's better to send them directly to the OPP, and if you say to the member, if you haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks or whatever, then call me again, and then I will follow up with somebody but again, we want to make sure it's done through the OPP, because those calls for service are mentioned, they're in our report, now they're talking about what levels of service we need,
Right.
rather than just writing it off to, you call the police services board chair and he's put in his pocket, never responded to anything at all. So that's the conversation that I've been having as a personal comment. I just want to make sure, let you know that has been the direction that I'm giving public, and I suspect
But we do have to prioritize what's happening, and there's only so many of us, but I can tell you that, no one will be waiting 24 hours to see a policeman. That won't happen, if they go through the right channels. I mean, if they're gonna call and leave a voicemail on a detachment phone at 2 in the morning, that doesn't get checked till 8. There's procedures, and I hopefully, and you know, it's been a long, you call the police the same way you call the Wingham police. There's no difference. If it's emergency, it's 911. If not, it's 1-888-310-1122. It's not, and we will be there. However, as with every municipality, we are in a position where we have to prioritize calls. It's simply that busy. Some days are busier than others, obviously, but we absolutely make it. And I like face-to-face. I don't like phone calls. I like face-to-face. Policeman at your door, unless you expect otherwise, and that's what I expect, and I tell them so. But they're human, and there's only so much time in the day. But if anyone has any concerns, and if you ever hear something that you go, you should probably call the cops right away over that, please encourage it. Please encourage it, and we'll take it from there.
So if there is nothing, other questions or comments, I would take a motion by the board to hereby approve the detachment commander's report from December the 15th meeting as presented. Board member McGrath moves. Board member Zaretta seconds. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we're just going to move on to 7.3, the other business. So this is the report number PO 2020-2003, schedule for the 2021 Police Services Board meetings. So for those that are not aware, our current municipal clerk and recording secretary for the board is currently enjoying the newly parenting. So his sleep has been now deprived for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, maybe 2. So he presented this report. What this report is ultimately indicating is, in Nicole, and really Nicole's most version is the Police Services Act requires you to have 4 meetings a year. When we were the Wingham Police Services Board, we had a meeting every month. We moved it when we moved to the OPP. We moved it to a quarterly meeting. Obviously, that is still the case, and what this report is indicating is that the board meetings will, in order to meet that criteria, under the current legislation, March 16th, June 15th, September 21st, and December 21st would be the meetings at 7 o'clock in this building, unless otherwise documented. Those are Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. So nothing's going to change from that perspective. So I guess, is there any so obviously, as it relates to the municipality, you know, the board chair receives a flat rate remuneration of $120 per meeting. Each board member receives $100 per meeting, and the board currently has a full 5-member composition, which will result in annual remuneration of $2,080. If special meetings are required, obviously that amount would be higher. Is there any questions or comments as it relates to the meeting schedule? So if there's no comments, then I would take a motion to receive the report of the clerk dated December the 15th regarding the schedule for 2021 Police Services Board meetings for information purposes. And further, that North Huron Police Services Board agrees to meet on the dates of March 16th, June 15th, September 21st, December 21st in 2021 at 7 p.m. And further, that special meetings will be called by the board as required. And further, that staff be directed to advertise the 2021 schedule of the North Huron Police Services Board meetings on the township's website. I've got Councillor McBurney moves. I've got Board Member Middleton seconds. moving to 7.3.2, which is a report, again, presented to us by the clerk and reporting secretary, is for an update to our Police Services Board procedural bylaw. Most of the reasons for the procedural bylaw update are indicating changes to the procedural bylaw as it relates. The procedural bylaw was written when we had monthly meetings. Now, because they're gone to quarterly, a lot of the verbiage needs to be changed as it relates to quarterly meetings. The one thing I do want to note is that in the procedural bylaw, it was indicated that in the first meeting in the year, which usually was January, the board would indicate or would nominate a chair and a vice chair for that purpose. Obviously, the recommendation from the recording secretary and the clerk is to remove the terminology of January as it relates to just the first meeting of the new year. So, in essence, that would happen in March or a special meeting if we had a reason to have a special meeting prior to that. So, that would be the indication of that. Was there any questions? Is there any questions as it relates to the report or what changes are looking to be made as it relates to the procedural bylaw? Okay, so there's a recommended here that the North Huron Police Services Board hereby receives the report of the clerk recording secretary dated December 15th regarding the Police Services Board procedural bylaw update for information purposes. And further, that the North Huron Police Services Board agrees to adopt the updated Police Services Board procedural bylaw as presented. Do I have a mover of that? I got board member Zaretta moves. Do I have a seconder? I've got board member McGrath seconds. I'll ask again, is there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. So I'll move into the bylaws. Obviously, most of these bylaws are just regurgitating what we just basically moved. So one of the things I'll just go in here is 8.1, which is 01-2020, being a bylaw to govern the proceedings of the Township of North Huron Police Services Board. Be introduced, read as first, second, and final time, signed by the chair and secretary, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that? I've got Councillor McBurney moves. I've got board member Middleton seconds. All those in favor? Carried. So I've got bylaw 02-2020, authorization of a ride funding. Bylaw number 2-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the chair to sign on behalf of North Huron Police Services Board a reduced impaired driving everywhere transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General. Be introduced, read first, second, third, and final time, signed by the chair and secretary, and engrossed in the bylaw book. I've got board member McGrath moving that one. The seconder, board member Zaretta seconded. Is there any questions that relates to that bylaw? All those in favor of that? Carried. So correspondence, any new business? Yep. Member Zaretta?
Just not sure if this is the right time to talk about this, but just referring to your comments about the hours. You just mentioned about doing reconciliation for 2019.
Yes.
So is that in reference to the hours not being fulfilled in the contract?
So what that is then they look at the contract and then they reconcile what hours were actually produced for those calls for service.
Okay, yeah.
And then they they basically reduce the upcoming year's budget according to that. So I think in the current year, in 2020, they budgeted, that reconciliation actually happened, and it was about $120,000 reduction, so that the money came back as it relates to that reconciliation. obviously the calls for service have them wherever in the municipality and in the county. So again, at the end of the day, that reconciliation is being done in that respect.
So that would be done again for this year, because of course this year's gonna be quite a larger number of.
Yeah.
bills.
So that reconciliation happens in every OPP contract. Like,
Okay, so it's
so
not something.
it's not specifically to this contract. It happens in, in the township, in the East Wallanosh and Blythe Ward. They have a contract under, section 5.1. They would be doing the same thing. That reconciliation would happen no different than this reconciliation.
Is someone from the town looking at that or analyzing that, or do we just take it at face value, or?
Well,
No, nothing. But.
Yeah, the argument is that the OPP do their reconciliation based on their DARs and their information. The only way for us as a municipality to verify their numbers is to know how their data came up. So I can honestly tell you, I don't know that anybody in the municipality would either know or have the ability to figure out the math as it relates to what that looks like. The OPP billing model is a complex billing model. It really is. And when the billing model changed, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a significant public outcry about how it was calculated, how it wasn't calculated. The math is the math, and it becomes it's part of the discussion about how calls for service and their cost per property. It's really how that looks at. So the reconciliation, is there a way for the municipality to verify it? They give you a number. I guess if you didn't agree to it, you could ask them for backup. I'm not sure what backup you'd get, but that would be where I would see it.
I would just, to me, it would just seem that the town would have got more of a reduction based on a couple thousand hours short in 2019. So that's just why I asked the question.
Yeah, and I think, in one respect, the municipality looks at it in the sense that, I think one of the conversations that we have to have is that there's some benefits that the municipality gets by having the OPP that we're not being charged for. So there's the contract, but then there's those other incidental things that we aren't being billed for that, I think ultimately at the end of the day, we all have to take into consideration when we look at this. And I've said this to the municipality, and Councilor Recurring's been there when I said it. The municipality should not expect large reductions in reconciliations. Do not bank on that. Because all it would take is a couple of serious incidents or occurrences, and you're the other way very quickly. So one of the things I always stress is, and I said this before I live this because I was the proponent to switch to the OPP. It was on me because I believed it was the right thing to do as a municipal councillor. And one of the things I have is that, I'm not expecting, taxpayers' taxes to go down because of it. I'm expecting taxpayers' money to be better utilized in the sense that we have an OPP where we can serve the same agenda as we had in the Wingham service, but not as much direct fixed costs that we're incorporating in those budgets. So, it really is dependent on how you look at it. But that's why I say that, these reconciliations are a great thing when you look at them, and everybody said, I'm happy to get the money back. But we should not be banking on those as normal occurrences.
If I could interject, I think the policy is a good insurance policy. Because if things go really bad, I can assure you that this company is well within its abilities to investigate whatever happens. And I think that's where sometimes some of the smaller services struggle a little bit, because big modern day world problems need modern day world answers, and whether that be helicopters or SWAT teams or whatever it may be. And as you said, there should be a certain amount of peace of mind that everyone has knowing that, and I'm not saying we are any better or any worse than the Wingham Police Service, I'm not. In fact, the members that came over are outstanding, I can tell you that. But I'll put it the best when a gentleman from Owen Sound put it is, if I go missing on the trail, is this one certain police service gonna have 2 uniformed constables walking the trail, or are we gonna have full search teams like the OPD can provide, with dogs and helicopters, you know, so that is one of the benefits that, and you only recognize how great of a use it is when you need it, right? When you don't. But people should sleep better knowing that I can assure you that, and I've been around a long time, is that they're very well equipped in very short order to have a lot of resources.
So I hope that answered your question, Board Members Ryan. Board Member Graff.
I apologize for not asking this question earlier. If you look at this place across the road and you like it, is there going to be signage on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be signage, from the corner, I assume.
Well, that's something we'd have to look at maybe
Right.
as a group, we'd have to come up with, but I know that there are certain rules and regs that our, that the company would want to adhere to, as well as copyright issues, and we'd have to get our people from early to make signs, et cetera, but just in the conversation we had, exact same conversation we had with Goddard to Garwood, people wanna know there's a police station in town if they need to go to one. That's right, so, and that's what we are absolutely, there will be signage, and the biggest pitfall I'm seeing right now is, I would like our cruisers to be visible from a high traffic area,
They are.
parked in front of this building.
You see, one thing I see every morning here is OPP.
Right.
So it's not some, but I do, as you know, I wanted to see that building there. And I think as long as there's signage, because I know where the building is, as long as there's signage, it seems everybody you talk to would like, the little old lady or whoever.
Yeah.
Even though there might be no OPP there.
Right.
But if there's a Dropbox or something else, I think it's fantastic.
And the other good thing
Good
about a
job.
place like that is that it's a meeting spot if someone wants to talk to the police.
Correct.
We can go to, instead of going to your house, or, we can make a million scenarios, but meet me at the office, right? But people do need to know it's not manned 24/7, it's a simple drop-in center that we will hopefully, well, we have to have a computer, we have to have a bathroom. And that's about the extent of what we're asking for and need. But, yeah, I think it's super important that as I like to call it, that we show the doors. In that, when people drive through town, whether it's a person in the police car or not, and when it's parked in a high-vis area, it's gonna reduce crime, guaranteed, in that immediate area, okay? So, we will do our best, I can assure you there will be signage, I don't know what that looks like right now, but there absolutely will be.
So, is it the museum we're talking about?
No.
No, so so where Petropolis was, so right across the road from from here in Optometric.
Okay.
So right across the road, right beside yeah, right beside Buck and Joe. Right.
But it's actually behind.
Yeah, it's behind, it's not, it is not,
Yeah, it's in the back.
it's in the
It's in the
back,
back,
so it's
yeah.
not,
It's a beautiful little, all it is a, it's a small room with access to a washroom, well decorated, okay? It's perfect
Yeah, no, that's all
for
we
what
need.
you're looking for.
Easy, yeah.
Where's the access? Off Main Street?
I think it's
Rear.
behind.
behind.
Behind?
Actually, if you go behind, there's some apartments upstairs
Yeah,
also.
no, I don't, that's none of
Yeah,
it.
see, it's been a long time since you've been down this back alley.
Yeah, we'll have to go and have a look at it.
Yeah, we'll have to look.
They've redone that whole building.
Have they? Why not the Petropolis place? I mean, it's empty now.
So I can only say that Mr., I can't remember. He offered this one spot, we're not negotiating, I mean, he's offering us something, we're happy to take it.
Right.
Okay, I don't wanna start asking for bigger and better, all we need is a room with a desk and a chair, we're good. And I can tell you, it will be used a lot, because right now we're taking statements in the back of police cars, in front yards. We just need a place to sit and
session items today. So obviously, the next meeting, North Huron Food Service Board will be held Tuesday, March the 16th, 2021, at 7 o'clock here in the Town Hall Theater. So if there are no